Lawrence, there aren't many corners of the pension world in which you have not been, so to speak, from the private sector to the Pension Protection Fund and Nest, and you've been chair of the PPI since 2016.
That's
but
right.
When did you first become aware of the Pensions Policy Institute?
Well, I'd known about the Pensions Provision Group, and which Tom Ross was leading, I think, from just before the turn of the century. But it was probably about 2006, Nick, I think, that I became really aware of the PPI. And again, I was on the board for actuarial standards with Tom Ross, and he mentioned it to me at the point that Nicky Cleal was taking over, and say you should really support this organisation. It does good things. And so that's when I think I first became really aware of it. And obviously, listening to them on the conference circuit, I was able to confirm what Tom had said, that they did produce good research.
Right. He was a great salesman for it. So you've been chair since 2016. Why did you want to become chair?
Well, I think that it was the culmination of a decade or so of admiration for the work they did. I mean, as a non-executive running a portfolio career, offers to do something else come and go. And when I saw that the people, I was looking for a chairman, I thought, oh, now I could be very interested in that because they do great work. I'm interested in governance anyway. So that seemed to combine the two. And then one or two old friends phoned me up and said, hey, have you seen this vacancy? We really think, you should apply for it. And that's what made it happen. And the rest is history, as they say.
Right. And did you have an agenda when you became chair?
No, not particularly. I had themes that I wanted to sponsor. And some of those themes were to preserve the independence of the research. That's vitally important. I think if PPI were to become a campaigning institution, it would lose its way.
Yeah.
So the independence and quality of research certainly were one of them. But that doesn't mean you've got to be mealy-mouthed with your conclusions. If the data is clear and the analysis says, solution A is much better than solution B, we should be free to say that. And that's not campaigning. But to draw that line is actually quite difficult and sensitive from topic to topic.
Yes, I was going to say, have you felt at any moment that was at risk, the perception of independence?
Not the perception of independence. I think we value that extremely highly in the PPI. It is the one reason, I think, why so many members and supporters come to us. Because, if you're a large insurance company or a large pension fund, you've got your own resources to do analysis. So what makes the PPIs better? And the answer typically is the independence or thoroughness of their view. That is absolutely needing to be preserved. I have felt from time to time we could have said slightly more clearly some of the conclusions of the analysis, and I'll just give you an illustration on one of them, which was before my time, by the way. But PPI did a report on the tax relief on pensions, and could it be better distributed and better organised? And they came out with an answer from their analysis. I think from memory it was a 30% match from government was good for government. It was obviously good for basic rate payers, and it wasn't too much of a haircut for those who were used to higher rate. And it was a sweet spot. And I thought you could have promoted that much more volubly than in fact you did.
Yeah, that's an idea that's been knocking around for quite a while.
Yes, indeed.
Do you think its day may come?
Well, I hope it will. Rationally, it should do.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the pension system in the UK, it really suffers from complexity, hybridity, and risk. And so when you've got a mixture of state pension, DB maybe, and DC, all with different risk profiles, it's difficult for the average man in the street to navigate their way through all of this. I do think that the incentives to save, which is what tax relief is, are not well understood at the moment, and could be better deployed both economically and would probably produce better member outcomes.
Yeah, indeed. And this is a sort of tricky question because there's no counterfactual, Lawrence, but if the PPI had not existed, do you think the pensions landscape would look different now?
Wow, that's a very difficult question, Nick. I think probably in terms of the major issues, it probably wouldn't. And then there's a but. You see, of the 20 or 30 big initiatives on pensions over the past 20 years, I think 3 stand out for me as being absolutely fundamental. One is auto-enrolment, coming from the Pensions Commission work. The second was the formation of the PPF, which gave an underpin to all of the DB promises which were being tossed aside, if you remember, 20 years ago by employers who were in difficulty. And then I think there's the new state pension system that Steve Webb introduced. And that was vital. So they, I think, are the big 3 policy initiatives I'd pick out. I think they would have happened anyway, because they weren't caused by anything the PPI did. And the but is, I think the landscape for pensions without the PPI would be much less informed than it is, and therefore a lot more dangerous for people and for policymakers who may, choose the wrong policy option. There would be a much higher chance, I think, of poor outcomes for people in the UK. So in a way, what's PPI doing? It's almost like providing your Bupa health check, periodically. It's looking at the diagnosis of lots of stuff. It's saying, I'd be a bit careful about aspect A, B, or C, and so on. And I do believe, in health checks. And I think that's what the PPI provides for the UK pension system.
Your term comes to an end next year.
Yeah.
And the recruitment process has started. Why should people apply, Lawrence?
Well, I think fundamentally because the PPI's work is very important. It makes a huge contribution, I think, to the diagnosis of where we are just now with the UK pension system. I think that, if like me, you're interested in this aspect of policy, that we do all seek a better solution than the one that we've currently got. Then, it falls on all of us, all of our, lot as citizens of the country to try and do a bit better. So, and chairing the PPI is one way of ensuring that.
Grand. And if you had a couple of pieces of advice for your successor, what would they be?
Oh dear. I think any successor of mine would be able to make their own mind up, Nick. But I think I might say, look, keep pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Because the boundaries are changing not only within pensions policy, but also in later life financial issues where, housing and longevity risk and long-term care all come in as factors for people to consider. So, keep collaborating with other people as well. There's lots of clever people working in the pensions industry, and I think if we act together with them, we'll be a more powerful force for change.
That's grand. And just one final question, which is, would you have a message for the supporters of PPI and for those who help fund its research?
Oh, I would. It's a huge thank you. A huge thank you. As you know, as an educational charity, we've got no income apart from the contributions made by our members who think that this is a socially worthwhile institution to back, and for our sponsoring members who sponsor research. Well, I think the deal is a good deal for them, actually. We obviously benefit from the contributions that they make. They benefit from the fact that we're giving them independent research. The fact that commercially it makes sense to them, doesn't worry me, because at the moment we happen to be undersaved in the UK. So, if you're an asset manager or a life company or in the pensions industry, more contributions will come your way, should come your way, if we're to be successful.
Lawrence, that's great.